All right, it looks like we are live right now. We are live on Facebook and on YouTube. Give me a minute to make sure my volume is down. I am watching the chat for those of you who are watching us live. If you have questions or comments that you'd like to put out there to Michelle, you can put them in the comments here on Facebook, and I will be sure that she hears about them. Now, you guys, you definitely want to pay attention today because not only does Michelle have some really awesome tips to help your business be recession resistant, which is fantastic in the time that we're in, but she has a free checklist to give you at the end of today's session as well. So make sure that you stay tuned so that you get access to that free checklist along with the tips. Welcome, Michelle. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I'm trying to stay cool here in the air conditioning today. It is a warm one.
It is. It's nice and hot. So, Michelle, let me take a moment to tell the group a little bit about you from my own perspective, and then I'm going to ask you to share about who you are from your perspective. So, Michelle and I have known each other for, well, it's been about 10 years at least now, may even be 11 or so, because our kids are grown now. They're teenagers, and they've been friends for a long time. But Michelle and I first started off as friends long ago when our kids got together. And then later on in life, I started doing a position as a virtual assistant, and for a while Michelle helped me in that business, and then Michelle became a bookkeeper years after that, and I was super excited to be one of Michelle's first clients, and I believe even the first one. And yeah. Michelle is so phenomenal, not only as a business person, but as a person in general. Like, she's a wonderful woman, a fantastic mother. I can't say enough good things about Michelle and her character. But one of the things that I really truly admire about Michelle is her integrity and her always looking to grow. Like, she's always growing. And those of you who know me know that I'm the same way. I like to always grow. So for Michelle, it wasn't enough to just be just a bookkeeper. She went and got participated in all these groups with bookkeepers and extra certifications, and she's always taken it to the next level. But when I first signed on with Michelle, she taught me the Profit First system. I had never heard of it. Michelle introduced me to it. We may not get time to talk about it in this call, so that's something that if you're like, hey, that sounds really cool, make sure you reach out to Michelle, because she taught me as a business owner how to pay myself first, literally. Like, I know people talk about it all the time, but do you really actually pay yourself first? And so Michelle taught me how to do that, and she helped keep me accountable for it. And she was like my cheerleader when I finally started making money. She was like, Barbara, you made a profit this month. And we celebrated together. And it just was really fantastic. And Michelle and I have had some great times over the years. And I'm so excited to bring her on this show so that she could give you guys some of her value. And again, she's doing this, you guys, for free right now. So make sure that if you're interested in her, if you need a bookkeeper, if you need somebody, Michelle comes highly recommended by me. In fact, if somebody asks for a bookkeeper, Michelle is the only person that I will refer to them. I know a few other bookkeepers, and it's not that they're bad or anything. I just don't know them and their work as well as I know Michelle's. And I know without a doubt that Michelle's work is good and her ethics are good. So if you're looking for that, you need that, Michelle is highly recommended. All right, Michelle. So now that I've got a chance to introduce you, tell us about you as a person. With business aside, who's Michelle?
Well, first of all, Michelle, I'm very grateful. Thank you, Barb. That was amazing. We do go a long way back, don't we? We've been between our kids and business, and it's we have a lot of shared history there. So that's amazing. Thank you. Who is Michelle? I am a mom. I have 3 kids. Like Barb said, we have teenagers and almost teenager, and then my youngest is 7. I've been married to my husband almost 18 years. We were high school sweethearts. He is working from home now until at least September. So we're spending lots of good quality family time together. So we're enjoying that. And I am a business owner. I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I've always used sort of both sides of my brain equally. So when I was first starting out, I thought I wanted to be an actuary. I thought I wanted a big corporate job in Chicago and sitting behind a desk all the time. And then I realized I needed to use the other side of my brain. I like to be involved with people. I like to be face to face or, via computer. I like to interact with people a lot. So for me, bookkeeping brings together both sides of that. So I get to be my analytical self, but I also get to be my social self. So that, in a nutshell, is why who I am and how I came to bookkeeping.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. And how long have you been a bookkeeper now?
I started technically training in 2016. I officially opened my business on January 1st of 2017. So
nice.
I'm going on 3.5 years now. So yeah.
That's fantastic.
And you were my first client.
Woo woo. I love being able to help people get into business like that. It warms my heart to help people start out. Okay, so Michelle, tell us what your favorite part of being a bookkeeper is. If you had to choose like why you love it so much, what would that be?
Honestly, it's helping business owners figure out their processes and getting things in place and seeing that light bulb go on, like, oh wow. And like you said, getting that profit and loss statement that says they made a profit the first time, or how well they're doing, or that their business is doing better. Helping them understand what's going on in their business and not just, flying by the seat of their pants and not really knowing what's going on and making decisions without the information. Getting that level of understanding with the business owners, where they really appreciate what's happening and can make better decisions for their business.
That's awesome to hear. Because Michelle, remember when you and I first started working together? When you would ask me, Barbara, what is this charge that was at Dunkin' Donuts? And I'd be like, a coffee. And I got to the point where I felt like I was getting in trouble for getting so many coffees. And then but you weren't like scolding me like I thought, because I get so worried about stuff like that. But you helped me to understand that when I'm just going to get a coffee, for me, it can't be out of the business account, right? It had to be out of Barbara's account. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I was still at that time learning to separate my finances from my business and my personal. And you really helped me to do that in a way that that was easier to understand.
Yeah, I think that's something a lot of business owners, they just don't know. There's not, you have, when you open a business, whatever your idea for the business is, that's your strength. That's your area of expertise. So that's what you're going with. And for most people, that is not the bookkeeping. Their area of expertise is not the financial side of it. So while you're using your creative side and going toward whatever the business ultimate goal may be, a lot of times the bookkeeping gets kind of pushed by the wayside, either for just not having time, not understanding the importance of it. And so a lot of times people can get, I won't say sloppy, but essentially, they're just throwing everything together in a big pot and hoping that it'll all come out in the wash. So that's been one of my biggest positives is seeing that change in the business owners when they do realize, oh, wait, no, that's a personal expense. I can't do that through my business, or vice versa. Oh, hey, wait, this is a business expense. This is a write-off. I could use this as a business expense. So that's helping. It goes both ways.
Right. And so it was definitely helpful for me. I know that. And when I finally learned how important you as a bookkeeper was for my business, I actually, in my roadmap that I was creating for Fuse business training, one of the very first things that I instruct people to do is I always tell them, you need 3 people on your team as early as possible. You need a good assistant, a good attorney, and a good bookkeeper. This was before I married an attorney. Okay. Then I happened to marry an attorney. I happen to own a virtual assistant firm, and then I happen to know the most awesomest bookkeeper in the area, possibly on the planet. but those are the three people I always tell. In fact, I've had somebody come to me before recently who actually was talking about, I need to hire Michelle. She knew both of us, but I also need to hire you. And when I heard her situation, and I actually said, you need to hire Michelle before me. Like the bookkeeper needs to come before the assistant. Like you need to get the bookkeeper on in this particular instance. It's not always that way. Sometimes the assistant might come first, but in her instance, I said, no, go hire Michelle. After you get things going with her, come back to me. And because it just makes sense in certain areas. If somebody's books are all out of whack, there's not very much that an assistant can help you with if you're all over the place, even in that area. You know,
Right.
and there's no way that I'm doing bookkeeping.
Yeah. And you're just be throwing money at an assistant and essentially possibly wasting their time and yours in trying to figure things out, where you need to kind of go back to basics and start building the foundation from the bottom up.
Right. And because one of my things with her was, you need to make sure that you can afford me, because this same person had hired me in the past and could only afford me a few months at a time. And so I said, if you go to Michelle, she'll be able to tell you if and when you can afford an assistant, because I don't want you to just use me for 2 months. I want to be there for the life of your business. And so that's what that looks like. And I just want people to know that you need to hire people in the right order. And it's not really a cookie cutter order, but early on, you need to have a good bookkeeper, a good assistant, and a good attorney if you're in business.
For sure.
So Michelle, you have 3 tips that will help us to make our business recession resistant. I am so excited for you to share this with the group. Tell us what that means, recession resistant.
So I was talking with Barbara before this, and we that's kind of a misnomer to say recession proof. We can't make something recession proof, but we can, like I said, we can build those foundations to help make it recession resistant. And recession resistant to me means that as a business owner, you know what's going on. You're able to make the strong financial decisions. You're not flying by the seat of your pants, and you're not reactive when things, curveballs are thrown at you from, whatever they may be. This, pandemic, I don't think anyone saw coming. But any sort of recession, any sort of economic disturbance thrown at you, that you're able to make proactive decisions, and you know that your business is in a good, solid foundation, ready to meet those challenges head on. So for me, it's once again, it's getting down to basics. It's preparing. I call these my crane shot crucial tips, and this is crane shot crucial tip number 1, which is prepare. Which it seems like it may be a little late in the game to prepare, seeing as how we're already in a recession. However, we don't know when we're going to come out of this. We don't know how long it's going to be, and a lot of people have some extra time on their hands right now. So now is the time to prepare, which means that's keeping track of all of your income and expenses. It's my first tip because it's so important. I recommend keeping track of everything digitally, if you can, even just snapping pictures on your phone, making sure that you have the paperwork or digital images to back up all of your expenses so that you can get your finances in order and be better prepared come tax time. And also, like you said, the lawyer is so important. Now is a good time, if you haven't already, to establish your business as an LLC, to have it be a separate entity for yourself. And, basically you're running a business. It's not a hobby. You want to make sure that your business is set up as a business separately with its own business checking account or savings account or credit card or whatever, that are completely separate. Like we talked about before, where you don't want to mix your business and personal, keep it separate. That in getting into that habit, that's building a strong foundation to make sure that you as a business owner treat it as a business, and you'll see it as something separate from yourself that you need to cultivate and grow as you grow, essentially. So that, for me, my crucial tip number 1 of being prepared is, it's the foundation. It's your first step. You got to do it. You got to set it up separate and open your separate business checking accounts.
That's a great tip, Michelle. Thank you. Because when we think of storms, for instance, right, like natural disasters and stuff, one of the best things that you could do in those instances is also to prepare, right? Obviously, you can't prevent the storm from coming, but if you're prepared, having certain things in place, if the storm does come, you may not be quite as devastated if you weren't. Right. So that's a fantastic tip. And it is something that it's best to learn early on in your business. The sooner you can learn those foundational basics that Michelle's talking about, the better off you'll be long-term for your business. So what's
okay. So the second one feeds into that. So the second one is to run clean books. So you get set up in a software, Excel sheet or what have you, but you run clean books, which means you are making sure that all of your numbers tie out, that your accounts reconcile, that you have your documentation for everything. And so in the instance, like, for example, recently the SBA, approved more money for the PPP loans. Well, with the PPP loan, you have to have your documentation ready to go. So the people that got in on the first round, they had that documentation ready. So I had a few clients where all we had to do was run some reports and they were ready to go. Whereas other people were scrambling. They don't have those reports. They have a stack of receipts or, whatever in a shoebox. They don't know exactly what they paid themselves or what have you over the last 3 quarters or whatever it was. So that, to me, running clean books means what's going on. It's all in there. It's in your software. You're ready to go. Whatever software you end up choosing. I choose QuickBooks Online. So for me, it was as simple as pulling up some reports for the client. So they were able to get a first round, which for some was crucial to be able to help save their business. So, and also with the PPP, there is the option of having that loan forgiven. So in order to get that loan forgiven, we have to make sure that everything is documented, to make sure that 75% of it went to payroll costs. And there's other costs that are allowed to be forgiven, but they can only make up 25% of it. And then none of that can be actually deducted in their taxes come tax time. So it's a lot of, making sure either data and T's crossed, make sure that their books are clean. If anybody comes in and looks, it says, we know exactly where the money went. And so it can be forgiven ultimately, which is amazing to help out businesses.
Yeah,
my daughter has her
that
own
is so true,
commentary.
because I do know a few people. I do also know a few people who also were going for the PPP loan, and some of them who couldn't get it yet because, like you said, they didn't have their stuff in order. Some people I've even heard of that are going all the way back to try to file their taxes from 2016 and 2017 because they haven't done that yet. And so they're working on trying to get all that back tax stuff figured out so that they can qualify for the PPP loan. And I'm thinking, wow, I just can't even imagine being 1 year behind on taxes, let alone several years. And so having those clean books definitely helps. Having a bookkeeper do it for you guys will help a lot more. In fact, when I started talking to CPAs about, when I was ready to hire an accountant at some point, and I was talking to them about their process and all that, every single CPA that I talked to loved the fact that I had a bookkeeper on my team. And so that's one of the things that they do like. Like, your accountant will love you if you have Michelle or a bookkeeper with you. They will love you. They don't want you to bring a shoebox.
I do.
They want that QuickBooks report.
Bookkeepers and CPAs, we can work hand in hand. A lot of CPAs are focused on the taxes, and that's great. And they help with that, and they can help with the tax planning and all of that. But a lot of CPAs are also really busy. They don't have necessarily the time to do the monthly hand-holding for business owners and to get in there and teach them about the processes and show them better ways to do things. So, a lot of, I get every tax time, which this year tax time is never ending. But I always get messages from the CPAs like, thank you so much. And we definitely work hand in hand, and it's great, a great working relationship with them.
Awesome. All right. And then we are on tip number 3 then, yes?
Yeah. So our tip number 3 is know your cash flow. So I know a lot of people, you know, they maybe have opened their separate bank account. They've got that ready. Their business is running and they've got a business checking account. So they're running everything through that. And to them, that is good enough. But then they need something comes up. They need to make a repair or they need to make a purchase to grow their business or what have you. And so they decide whether or not they want to do that by looking at the balance in their bank account. So they pull up their bank app and they look and they say, all right, I can do it. And they make that purchase. What they didn't take into account was things like taxes, things like what money they already owe to other accounts payable, maybe money that's owed to them. They haven't looked at maybe what they want to pay themselves for that month. They're just, a lot of times people are just making those fly by the seat of their pants decisions without actually knowing their cash flow. So what knowing your cash flow is means knowing exactly what's going into and coming out of your bank account and what's scheduled to come into and go out of your bank account so that you can look at forecasted amounts for the future. It's not always just looking back. A lot of times people think bookkeeping is out with the previous periods, but it's also helped us to make better decisions about going forward and how we can make changes. Sometimes even, you know, little changes can drastically alter the course of your business. So knowing your cash flow is my crane shot crucial tip number 3. And it builds, these tips build. And we talked about it earlier, but I have this recession resistance business builder checklist, which has the crucial tips. And then it has a checklist for you, which gives you the exact, you know, get this done, get this done, get this done, the exact workflow so that you can be in a stronger position with your business should another economic crisis befall us.
Awesome. And Michelle, I am going to put the link in the comments for that checklist. And while I do that, can you give us your contact information? If somebody's like, I need to reach out to Michelle right now, this is the great.
Absolutely. So my website is craneshotsolutions.com. My email is m.crane@craneshotsolutions.com. Or you can call me. My number is 219-595-2127. And Barb, you were frozen there for a minute. You're back?
Okay, yes, good. I was hoping that it was just me and that they were hearing you during that. So you can get your contact information, yes?
Uh-huh.
Perfect.
Yes,
all right.
And
so
I also love to talk to businesses, even if you're not ready for a bookkeeper. I love to talk to you about your processes and give you some tips on how to get started strongly so that when your business grows and you are ready for a bookkeeper, we can kind of, you know, come into a better situation.
yeah, that is a great tip, Michelle, because I know that there's been a few people who I know personally as well that have taken you up on that offer to where you've been able to give them tips and then they've been able to hire you later, or maybe they're still waiting to hire you. But it was always great tips that you were able to give them on being able to be in the position to have. Okay, so I just posted in the comments asking if anyone had questions for you. So we're going to give it about 10 more seconds to see if anyone does. If they don't now, maybe they'll ask it as they watch the replay or later. But I did put the link in there. And then I'll also, when we get off the call, I'll put your contact information in there as well. So they have that. And then is there any last things, Michelle, that we did not cover that you'd like to make sure is mentioned here?
I'm not sure. We covered, I know we got through a lot. You talked a little bit about the profit plan. Profit First is a book by Mike Michalowicz. He's a very, very smart guy. He started several businesses and written many books on business, and which is really straightforward advice for business owners. It's a great plan. It's very helpful, even once again, to start it at the beginning, so you get into the habit of putting money aside each month for taxes, and you're, you know better what your operational expenses are, and you pay yourself. And you're also putting money aside for the rainy day. So yeah, it's definitely a great plan. If anybody, wants to pick up that book or wants to talk with me more about it, I'd be happy to chat with them.
Awesome. And then Michelle, with that, with what you do as a bookkeeper, one of the things that I also wanted to mention to people who might be kind of on the fence if they think it's if they're ready or whatever, is that one of the things that helped me is that you gave me the profit and loss statement every month, and a few other statements that I never really understood, but you explained them to me because I didn't understand them, and you were able to put it in Barbara terms of, well, this means you made money this month, or this means that you lost money this month, or and you was able to help me. But then you had shown me, but we put this much money into the profit, and this much is for taxes, and so it helped me understand, even though I despise numbers. They just give me a headache thinking about them, but you made it not stressful. Right. And because you did it all, and then you just gave me a report at the end of the month, right? I didn't have to worry about it. And so for me, it was freeing, right? It was like a stress relief. In fact, Michelle, there was one time I went to a really early after I started working with you, somebody, and I guess this goes with your number 3 tip. Well, I was at a conference, and the speaker up on stage said, how many of you could tell me right now exactly how much money you made in the last quarter? And I was like, not because I knew that myself, it was because I just had a meeting with you a few days before, and you told me how much I had made.
Nice.
So proud that I was one of the only hands up in there, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Right? See, that's the thing. So many people, they look at their bank balance as well, that must be my profit. But it's not. Your bank balance includes, whatever you've invested, your equity investments, whatever you've taken out as pay to yourself, things like that. That's not your profit. That is not your, income and expenses and what's left over. It is not. So, and like you said, I would give you the reports. At that time we were meeting weekly, right, with your Fuse group at the time. So, monthly we would sit down and talk about it, which is great. Some of my clients like that. Some of my clients like Zoom meetings like this. Some of my clients like me to email them their reports or put them in a shared folder. And then we go over things quarterly. So it's basically whatever comfort level the client. Some people don't want to know until the end. They just want to know it's all being done, and then they'll look at it one time and they're good. So yeah, I personalize the service for the comfort level of the client.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. All right, you guys, I don't see any questions in the comments, so I'm going to let Michelle get back to her family on this beautiful day. But if you guys do have any questions or need anything from Michelle, you know where to find her. She's in this group. She gave you her contact information. I'll add her contact info in the comments. But like I said, she is highly, highly recommended by yours truly.
Thank you so much, Barb. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on today.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.